Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am Referee Bloodworth and today I'm going to be revisiting Adventurer Conqueror King system, ACKS, which is, this is the first edition. You may be aware that second edition of ACKS is currently in Kickstarter and doing very well in its Kickstarter. And I recently interviewed Alexander Macris. It was a great interview. Really enjoyed it. You can always catch that. I will link that to this this video so that you can take a look at that interview and see the discussion that we had and the talk about how ACKS has been moved from first edition towards the second edition. I have available right now and will continue to cover ACKS first edition. That way, when second edition is released, I'll be able to do comparison videos over each of these. I have a kind of like a rough draft of second edition that I don't want to do the reveal of any of those components just yet. So let the Kickstarter run through. And as soon as he releases PDFs of, officially releases PDFs of the of Adventure Conqueror King second edition, then that's when I will start going over those as well. So, without further ado, let's start taking a look at Chapter 5 spells, and in particular, I want to focus on the magic system and actual casting rather than just the spells themselves. So we'll go jump right into that, and here we go. I actually like the artwork for these chapter artworks, black and white, but just very evocative. Very, it makes you think like this is probably one heck of a spell to deal with. So really cool stuff. So spells and spell casting. And I will make this a little bit larger. Spells are powerful invocations that use esoteric hand gestures combined with eldritch spoken words to bring about otherwise impossible effects. Like characters, spells have levels that measure how powerful they are. For instance, some spells are level 1, and some are level 2, and so on. Lower level characters can learn only lower level spells, while higher level characters can access more powerful higher level spells. Spells may be cast only by characters of special classes, collectively called spellcasters or casters. The two types of spellcasters are divine spellcasters and arcane spellcasters. So I like the fact that there's only two different types of schools of magic. So that's very easy to wrap your head around. The divine spellcasters described in the rulebook are clerics, blade dancers, and dwarven craft priests, while the arcane spellcasters are mages, elven nightblades, and elven spell swords. Some rules will apply only to one type of spellcaster, while others apply to both types. If a rule does not specify a particular type of spellcaster, it applies to both divine and arcane spellcasters. Casting spells. During any single day, spellcasters can cast the number of spells of each level indicated on the spell progression table for their class. Unlike other fantasy games, in Adventure Conqueror King, spellcasters do not have to memorize or prepare their spells in advance. They can choose which spells to cast at the time of casting from among any and all the spells in their repertoire. Once spellcasters have cast all of their available spells for the day, they must have 8 hours of uninterrupted rest and 1 hour of concentration study or prayer before they can cast. So they essentially need 9 hours of time to be ready for their next day of spell casting. All spellcasters need to be able to move their hands and speak in order to make the gestures and say the magical phrases that bring magic effects into being. As a result, spellcasters cannot cast spells if he is gagged, his hands are tied, or he is in an area under the effects of a silence spell. Spellcasters may take no other actions during the same round they intend to cast a spell. As described in the initiative section of Chapter 6, which I will get to, a PC must announce the intention to cast a spell prior to initiative being determined at the beginning of a round. Should an opponent successfully deal damage to the character, or if the character is required to roll a saving throw and fails prior to casting the spell is disrupted and fails. The spell still counts against the spellcaster's spells per day as if it had been cast. Finally, in most instances, a spellcaster must have the intended target of the spell within visual range, unless otherwise noted, whether the target is a specific monster, character, or area of effect. The spell repertoire. The spells available to a spellcaster are called his repertoire. Despite the similarities in how they cast spells, arcane and divine spellcasters have very different spell repertoires and learn their repertoire in very different ways. Divine spell repertoire. Divine spellcasters receive their spells directly from the deity they serve. Their spell repertoire automatically includes each spell of each level they can cast from the spell list made available to them by their deity, but not necessarily every divine spell in existence. Each day, generally in the morning, a well-rested divine spellcaster simply needs to pray for at least 1 hour in order to be able to cast these spells. Of course, the divine spellcaster may be expected to pray more than this in order to remain in his deity's good graces. A cleric spell list on page 68 represents a general list of spells that might be provided to clerics of powerful gods with broad spheres of influence, such as clerics of Amanor. Because clerics gain their spells from specific deities, however, the exact spell availability for any given cleric could instead include a variant selection from this list combined with spells drawn from other sources. For instance, a deity devoted to healing may refuse to grant their clerics reversed healing spells, but might offer special curative spells available only to her clerics. Just because a spell is listed below as a divine spell does not necessarily mean it is available to every cleric. The judge will determine which spells are appropriate for any given cleric based on the power he serves. All right, so judges are what the game master are called in ACKS, so I will refrain from using referee again. So Blade Dancer spell lists on pages 68 to 69 is an example of a spell list of divine spellcasters designed around a specific deity, Iana, goddess of love and war. Arcane spell repertoire. The arcane spellcasters have only a limited repertoire of spells. The base number and levels of spells in the arcane spellcaster's repertoire is equal to the number and level of spells he can cast per day. The number of spells of each level in the repertoire is increased by the spellcaster's intelligence bonus. For example, a third level magic user is able to cast 2 first level and 1 second level spell per day. His repertoire is 2 first and 1 second level spell. If he has a 16 intelligence plus 2 modifier, then his spell repertoire is increased to 4 first level and 3 second level spells. So he gains that plus 2 to both levels, which is really much more powerful than other systems that I've seen, where The 16 would give him access to an additional plus first level spell. A 17 would be a first and second level spell, and an 18 would be a first, second, and third level spell. So this just gives a straight out modifier to every single spell level the character can cast. So that's actually pretty. That's actually a pretty big bonus when you start considering higher levels. So really important to have that high intelligence then for spellcasters, arcane spellcasters. A formula for each spell in an arcane spellcaster's repertoire is recorded in his spellbook. Periodically, the caster reviews his spellbook to refresh himself on various taboos, rituals, and star signs he must remember about each spell in the repertoire. A blank spellbook costs 20 gold pieces and has 100 pages. Each spell formula in the repertoire takes up 1 page per spell level in a spellbook. Spell formula are accumulated over time and are useful if the caster wishes to change his repertoire, see below. While a mage generally has formula for every spell in his repertoire, the reverse is not true. An arcane spellcaster might have possession of a spell formula without having it in his repertoire. For an arcane spellcaster to have a spell in his repertoire, he must keep track of complex astrological movements and star signs that are constantly changing. He must daily appease various ghosts and spirits. I just lost my spot. Various ghosts and spirits that power certain dweomers. He must remember and obey special taboos that each spell dictates. All of these strictures, and they are many, can vary with the season, the lunar cycle, the caster's location, and more. Having a spell in the repertoire is thus an ongoing effort, like maintaining a friendship or remembering a song. Mages may collect spell formula from many sources, but only the most intelligent and learned arcane spellcasters can maintain a repertoire of more than a few spells at a time. All right, so that's really quite interesting. It really does require a spellcaster to be so highly intelligent that they can maintain knowledge of all of these requirements going on, and it would be really quite interesting, I think, to see that role played out between the between the judge and the player character, when they're when the player character is in a situation where they thought they might have a spell necessary, but then the judge describes a situation where it doesn't match up. Maybe the stars are not aligned or whatnot, and then the player would have to very quickly respond with a different, potentially casting a different spell instead. Sounds pretty cool. So starting spell repertoire, a first level arcane spellcaster starts in the game with a base of one first level spell in his repertoire. The judge should select an appropriate spell for arcane spellcasters to begin with. Charm Person, Light, Magic Missile, Protection from Evil, or Sleep are good choices. I always include, if they have Read Magic, that's a requirement. That's going to be in every repertoire free, because otherwise they can't really do their function. So if there is a Read Magic spell in this, then I will definitely look into that, and I would definitely homebrew that in. As they advance in level, I'm reading add new spells. As they advance in level, arcane spellcasters can add new spells to their repertoire in a few different ways. All mages and elven spellswords are assumed to be members of a local mages guild or apprenticed to a higher level NPC. When they gain a level of experience, they may return to their masters and be out of play for 1 game week per spell while they are adding new spells to their repertoire. Their masters will teach them spells equal to the number of levels of spells the casters can use in a single day. Characters of 9th level or above do not have masters to teach them spells, so they must find or research them. When a master is not available, mages and elven spell swords depend entirely on finding spell scrolls, finding other spell books with new spells in them, or conducting spell research. If a new spell is found on a scroll or another arcane spellcaster's spellbook, it may be added to the arcane spellcaster's repertoire if the character can still learn new spells of that level. If the spell is too high level to be cast, it cannot be put into the repertoire, but it may be saved to put into the repertoire in the future. It takes 1 week of study to add a spell to the character's repertoire. Scribing a spell from a scroll uses it up in the process, but copying spells from a spell book does not erase spells from the book. Scrolls and spell books are complex and esoteric, and usually written in obscure and dead languages. A scroll or spell book can be read only by the spellcaster who created it, or by an arcane spellcaster who can read the language the scroll or spell book is written in. An arcane spellcaster can use read languages to read a scroll or spellbook in an unfamiliar language. And then they give an example here. I'm going to skip over the example. I see gold. So it costs 1 week of game time and 1,000 gold for each spell level to replace a spell in a repertoire with another. Wow. So that's pretty darn expensive to do that. Let's see. Sometimes I'm looking at just monies now. Sometimes a spell, sometimes an arcane spellcaster's book will be either lost or destroyed. Each week he goes without access to his spell books. An arcane spellcaster loses 1 spell level from his repertoire until eventually he knows none at all. An arcane spellcaster can rewrite the spells through research and memory at a cost of 1 week of game time and 1,000 gold pieces for each spell level. For instance, if 2 first-level spells and 1 second-level spell are replaced, it will take 4 weeks and 4,000 gold pieces. This actively requires complete concentration. Activity requires complete concentration, and the character doing this work may not engage in any other activity for the time required. Wow, that is hefty penalty for not having access to your spell book for an extended period of time. So yeah, and very costly. Reversible spells. So some spells are marked with an asterisk on the spell list and can be cast reversed. A reverse spell results in the effect that is opposite to the effect of the spell's normal causes. For example, when a mage casts Flesh to Stone, he can turn a flesh and blood creature into stone, but when a mage casts the reverse spell, Stone to Flesh, he can restore a creature that has been petrified back to life. That's pretty standard. Favoring Bless over Bane. So certain deities are going to either allow for reverses or disallow reverses depending on the domain of the deity. We already talked about that. Spell signatures. So this is something that's new, certainly new to me. I've never heard this term before. So while spells have general effects that are common to all who cast them, a specific sensory effects associated with the spell will vary from caster to caster. This specific sensory effect is known as a spell signature. A spellcaster should write a short description of the signature for his spell he casts. For an arcane spellcaster, the signature may be based on a particular school or style of magic, or simply be a reflection of the spellcaster's personal taste. For divine spellcasters, the signature reflects the caster's relationship with the deity. A character's choice of proficiencies can be suggestive of appropriate spell signatures. So let's see an example of this. Sargon pursues necromantic magic and has the black lore of Zahar proficiency. His player decides that all of Sargon's spells will revolve around death. His magic missiles appear as shards of bone. His sleep spell places targets into a nightmarish slumber where they dream of hell. His lightning bolt is crackling blue-black energy. His wall of stone has the appearance of tombstones graven with the names of the dead. So really, really cool, cool thing for players to really come up with these spell signatures for each and every one of their spells. It's just such a really cool role-playing aspect of it. It creates imagery, and it also, I think, encourages players to really buy into their characters' abilities and their spells and such. So, really cool idea, and just unbelievably simple way of taking something that we've all probably been doing for decades, playing spellcasters or running games with spellcasters, and then just adding in that extra little flair to it that is unique. I've never seen that before in any other system, and I have looked at dozens and dozens and dozens of systems. So kudos to Adventure Conqueror King in doing something a little bit different. So let's see, first level arcane spells. So let's see, detect magic. Let's see if there's read languages. So I would include read languages as a default in every spellcaster's, arcane spellcaster's repertoire, free. So that will be in the book automatically, and then they would get their regular selection based on level. Going beyond that. Okay, and now we have the divine spell list, and you can see the various reversibles. So cure light wounds can be, cure, what do they call that? Like inflict light wounds kind of thing. Or cause. I think they use cause. Protection from evil, light, you can create darkness, remove fear, you can cause fear, and such. So, and then we have specific Blade Dancer spells. So let's see. Let's look at common command word, cure light wounds, detect evil, detect magic, detect light, protection from evil, purify food and water, remove fear, resist cold, sanctuary. And let's see how a Blade Dancer's divine changes. They still have, fairy fire instead. They have fellowship instead. Resist cold was here. Yes. So they just have two spells right off the bat that are slightly different and unique to them. So they have fairy fire and fellowship. And then here we have the spell types, and they have the asterisk here to show you that they can be reversed, as you can see with bless, and so forth. Not a whole lot of details in here, so there's not as much information needed for these things. Let's see if we can get animate dead. This spell turns the bones or body of dead creatures into undead skeletons or zombies that follow the caster's spoken command. The caster may animate a number of hit dice of undead equal to twice his caster level each time he casts the spell. Animated skeletons have hit dice equal to the number the monsters had in life. For skeletons of humans or demi-humans, this means one hit die regardless of the character level of the deceased. Zombies have one more hit die than the monster had in life. An animated skeleton can be created only by the most intact skeleton. A zombie can be created only from the most intact corpse. The caster must touch the remains to be animated. Animate dead normally lasts for just 1 day, but the spellcaster can make the spell permanent by sprinkling a vial of unholy water per hit die on each zombie or skeleton. If this is done, the undead remain animated until they are destroyed or dispelled. All right, so that I was reading that specifically because I wanted to see what kind of rituals or whatever have to be done in order to change the spell effect, as it were. And just imagine if you're going to add a signature to this as well. Maybe your animated dead are a certain color, or they have glowing red eyes when you animate them, and so that becomes part of your signature. So really cool stuff, and a lot of room to expand upon this as well. Let's see. I'm just going to friendship. Let's see what friendship is. Oh, fellowship. The spell causes the divine spellcaster to increase the feelings of camaraderie in those he interacts with. All creatures that are socially interact with the spellcaster must make a saving throw versus spells. All those failing the saving throws are very impressed by the caster and great desire to be his friend and assist him in any way he can. Wow, I have a player in my group that would use this thing like crazy. He expects this kind of behavior towards him, but he would definitely jump all over this. Yes, I'm talking to you, Breeze. You would love this thing. If we play tonight, I'm definitely going to read this to you. And he'll say, I have that power by default. But really cool stuff. So, so I'm going to leave it there. So you can see there's enough here that's very familiar. There's additional challenges to being a spellcaster, and you have to have, like I said, those things have to be aligned and everything. There's a lot more flavor to it in that you have the ability to create signature spell effects. They're all just like imagery and such. They're not making anything more powerful or cast dramatically different. They're just changing what it looks like, and adding that flavor to it. So really like the system. Like I said, it's a very simple system to understand. Different enough from Dungeons and Dragons for it to have its own kind of flavor and feel to it, and that's the kind of thing I've been seeing throughout my going through and flipping through Adventure Conqueror King system, is that whereas it's still an OSR game and it's still connected to Dungeons and Dragons in many ways, there are many differences that really make it stand out as a totally different gaming experience. So certainly encourage you to take a look at it, and definitely take a look at that the Kickstarter that's out right now for Adventure Conqueror King 2, and it's called an Imperial Impact, and I can't wait to get to the section when they really start talking about the domain play, because that is the signature of this game system, is that domain play. It really does take off once you get to that point. So thanks for joining. I hope you like this video, and I am going to, as I've mentioned in my last video, I'm going to be sending my computer in for a repair. There's an issue with the pump fan, and I don't know how long it's going to be until I get that computer back. I see that it's coming from Texas, and the box arrived to me in 1 day. So I'm hoping that, when I ship it FedEx, to Texas, that it gets there within a day or two, as quickly as the box came, and hopefully I'll have my main computer back within a week or two. Hopefully it doesn't take much longer than that. But if it does, then I'm going to be relying on videoing as many videos as I can do today, because I do want to put it into the FedEx place by today. But I'm also testing out my old laptop to see how much I can get out of that, or I'll just do live streams on my iPad in the interim. So definitely not going to be a a shortfall of videos or content on the channel over these next, let's say, 2 weeks or so. I'm certainly looking for ways to continue giving you stuff to look at and respond to. And I will still take your requests and everything like that. Once I'm really sure that I have good access, whether it's through the laptop or the iPad, then I may do some interviews, although I'd much prefer to have my tabletop desktop, I should say, desktop computer back in time for that. So thanks for joining. I hope you liked this video. Remember to like and subscribe and comment in the comments section. And enjoy your weekend. And I look forward to seeing you on a gaming screen or at a convention, sometime soon. You all have a great day. Take care.